Free agency is almost over, and this means we can start to get excited about our fantasy prospects again, especially for Dynasty. So, Ed, it's time to get ready to outthink your league and look at what these free agency moves mean for our rosters. We're going to start, though, pre-free agency and with the trade. The reason we're going with the headline is because we love David Montgomery. We're also very excited for Jahmyr Gibbs. It was a great way to kick off all of the trade and free agency shenanigans, wasn't it?
Indeed, yeah. I think we were starting to write the obituaries for Monty's fantasy career, weren't we? I think he tailed off badly last season. We were worried where he went this season, but that move to the Texans really is exciting for both him and the Texans, and certainly makes him fantasy relevant once again.
Yeah, we'd put him as a potential, he's in our awards, wasn't he? As a farewell to the fantasy relevance of Monty. We thought it was maybe flex at best and one you would consider switching out moving forward. But this side, does it put him back in the low end RB2 conversation, I reckon, week in, week out? It's got to, hasn't it? Because he is the clear RB1. Woody Marks showed flashes. The ghost of Nick Chubb is still there at present. Mixon shot himself in the foot when it came to a contract. He's clearly projected to be that RB1. But it's often the moves that happen, it's the players they leave behind that can cause excitement as well. Jahmyr Gibbs, a backfield potentially to himself. I'm not worried about Isaiah Pacheco, are you?
No, Gibbs is going to be a backfield behemoth for next season. Bit of alliteration there for you, Mark. I think Monty equally. He is going to be the clear RB1 in Houston as well. You think, as you said, I think Mixon, if ever he does come back, will be leaving Houston. So, both of them are set up for really exciting seasons.
Monty's vacated 158 rush attempts. Pacheco managed last year 118, 83 the year before, albeit with injuries. I just think Gibbs is going to get a few more of those. And I think currently for me, we don't know what's there's still moves to happen. Obviously, the draft can scupper all of our plans as well. But he's absolutely in contention for the 101 in redraft and best ball. I think maybe for us, Dynasty's pushing it because we prefer to stack a premium on our wide receivers when it comes to Dynasty. But yeah, just so exciting for Gibbs. Should we look ahead at some of the running back free agency moves, though, Ed? I mean, Kenneth Walker's the headline. I don't think we need to really state it, but we shall anyway. How long have we been waiting for an actual RB1 to arrive in Kansas?
Yeah, I think every year we try to talk up the Kansas running backs, try and talk someone into being an RB1, but it just hasn't quite worked out that way over the last couple of years. But yeah, they get the Super Bowl MVP in Kansas, and that could be a game changer for them next season.
Looking around that, does it lessen Mahomes' value after his 64 rush attempts, 422 yards and 5 touchdowns? But also, does Mahomes having that in his locker maybe lessen Walker's absolute upside? We're saying that it's been pretty much as close to a 50-50 split as a backfield gets last year with Charbonnet. So that's going to be much better for him. RB22 last season. Charbonnet was RB24. Is Walker a contender for his first ever top 12 season this year? What are you reckoning? Is that probably a little bit too optimistic, or is that within reach?
No, I think it's within reach. We need to wait to see how things settle down there. Walker will get involved in the receiving game. We've, of course, had confirmation that Kelsey's returning again, so he'll take some of those receptions. But yeah, it surprises me that Walker maybe hasn't had an elite season before. But he's got everything there in Kansas to do that, and I'm sure they'll give him the opportunity to do that. Let's see what fancy players think to Kenneth Walker in Kansas City.
I think his lack of being a true receiving back perhaps limits a little bit of his ceiling. But yeah, you're absolutely right. He's certainly higher in stock than he was previously. We're also then looking at Rico Dowdle going to the Steelers. He arrives alongside Jaylen Warren. Both are a little unpredictable fantasy right now. I think this is going to be with a couple of these, I'm going to want to reserve judgment till we see what we hear out of training. I mean, we'll then say in training camp, you can't listen to what you hear out of training camp. But this one, I'd like to kind of hear a little bit of think before I'd settle. I'm not sure I'm overly excited by either at this stage. I think for me, I'm just desperate one year to be right about Jaylen Warren. So I'll probably go Jaylen Warren again based on nothing but vibes.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a hugely exciting move. I mean, I rate Rico Dowdle, and he's had his moments, hasn't he? But I can't see. I don't know. We just don't know what's going to happen in Pittsburgh. They've got a new head coach, which is a big change for them. It's yet to see what happens with their quarterback. They'll be there or thereabouts. The Steelers will be. You'd expect they always are. But yeah, I can't really get massively on board with either of Dowdle or Warren at this stage.
Yeah, that coaching change is interesting, isn't it? Because Warren was one of Tomlin's guys. McCarthy's come in. He's chosen potentially a new guy. Maybe that is what it's going to come down to. McCarthy likes Dowdle. He wants Dowdle, and that's where the attempts are going to go. Travis Etienne to the Saints. I'm going to cut to the chase. I'm not that excited.
I'm shocked.
Etienne was RB10 last season, but we'd say he was so inconsistent week in, week out. New Orleans last year, the 5th fewest total rushing yards over the whole of the season. They've not had a complete revamp, have they? I'm not overly excited by New Orleans currently. Let's see what the draft brings. He does only have Devin Neal for competition, though, at present. Well, I'm saying that. We don't know what's happened with Alvin Kamara yet. If he stays around, I think he was very clear that it was going to be New Orleans or done, wasn't he, Kamara? So that's probably one time to hold out. I don't know. If you bought Etienne, I don't see Kamara sticking about. I honestly, though, have no idea where Etienne is going to be when it comes to me looking at my RB rankings when we get towards that stage of the off-season. Finally, not pictured, but we're going to mention him, Kenneth Gainwell to the Bucks. This is a move that gives me more questions about Bucky Irving, I think, than hope for Gainwell. Gainwell is a better pass catcher than Irving is. His huge rookie season, RB13, was followed up by only 10 games last year, RB34. That was also only 34 fewer carries. So it's still a notable drop-off. Ed, can you tell me somebody who had the same number of rushing carries inside the 5 as Bucky Irving last year?
Oh, I don't know. How many rushing carries would he have had in the 5? Chase Brown.
We did, Ed. We had the same number of carries inside the 5 as Bucky Irving because he had 0.
Wow.
What is the role for Bucky Irving at the minute? So only
it was a weird one last year, Bucky Irving, wasn't it? He was out. The injury just seemed to linger and linger, and he was out for a week. Then he was out for 2, and then it seemed a bit indeterminate, and then he came back. You've got to expect. Surely he's RB1. Gainwell is a backup. Gainwell is someone there, as a different option in the backfield. So I've still got some faith in Irving to come back strong next year. But I know what you're saying about the drop off last year.
Sean Tucker ended up being a bit of a fancy gremlin last year, getting some of those kind of carries closer to the line as well. Gainwell was RB16, that solid season at Pittsburgh. Are they both going to be low-end RB2? Yeah. Are they both going to be low-end RB2s for us?
Yeah.
Or was Irving a James Robinson rookie season wonder? Will Irving be back with a bang and Gainwell drifts back into obscurity we saw at Fit? There's just so much I'm not sure about that. Once again, I don't know where I'm going to land on those. I think they're the sort of players that I imagine there'll be others around them I'm happier taking the risk on. But both of them are players I imagine I want a bit of exposure to here or there in best ball because one of them could have a really, really solid season. If it's your first time joining us here at the Think Tank, then please do give us a subscribe, a like, and share. We've got loads of content coming through the whole of the off-season. Our rookie show's coming up soon. But let's continue with free agency. Ed, did you have Alec Pierce down to set the record for the highest paid free agency wide receiver of all time?
His contract was quite a big shock to me when the alert came up. I think it was the NFL alert. I thought That's a big contract for Alec Pierce. But, I think you're about to go on and talk about some of his stats. And, potentially you can see why they've made that investment in him.
So Michael Pittman leaving Indy is a big indicator. The fact that Pittman's gone and Pierce got paid, you follow the money, don't you? A lot of the time, it was the same reason why we were so high on Javon Johnson last year. We'd not necessarily seen the evidence to justify it, but he got a load of money, so clearly he was going to have a significant role. He's clearly with the number one target, and the money would dictate. We've got a player that's going to be in line for 8 to 10 targets a game. He had 10 games with fewer than 5 last year, so it's the money that says yes, not necessarily what we saw. But his 11.94 yards per target gives him a route to being a true fancy asset in 2026 with that increased workload. So Pittman vacates 111 targets. How high do you see him going in drafts now?
Yeah, you've got the question mark of Danny Dimes coming back from, quite a nasty injury. Of course, he and the Colts started like an absolute train last season, but then they derailed massively once Danny Dimes went down. And I think if he and Pierce can form, or rekindle that decent relationship, then Pierce, looking like the wide receiver one in Indy, should be going quite high up draft boards. Especially as you say with Pittman moving on, that's a big number of targets to be left behind.
I think he's gone from a cautious flex play to a player we would hope to see wide receiver 2 numbers each week with some wide receiver 1 weeks thrown in there as well. I want to go back to what we said before, though. Sometimes it's the other players that we're not spotlighting on that maybe are beneficiaries as well. I'm really looking forward to seeing whether Tyler Warren is actually the biggest winner of Michael Pittman going. What a good season he had last year. And I think his stock has gone up quite considerably. It depends how savvy your league are. So we're speaking about outthinking your league. Tyler Warren's going to cost a lot. But once people start to realise the work he's made for, he could cost a lot more. If your league aren't really clued up and aren't paying as much attention, they're getting very excited about the value of rookie draft picks that are only going to go up as we get closer to the draft and the excitement of that. Maybe Tyler Warren, this is the last buy window you get before he is off limits completely. I don't know. It's interesting to look around there. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think you're spot on about Tyler Warren. And last year we struggled at tight end, didn't we? For bona fide regular plug-in every week tight ends. There weren't many of them last season, but I think Tyler Warren definitely fits into that category, especially with the changes happening there. So yeah, I agree. I think this might be the time to maybe go for him before he becomes too pricey.
100%. There are more fancy relevant players that have moved over the free agency than Mike Evans, but as Reed moves on from Tampa after 12 years, we had to give him the respect he is due by giving him his own graphic. Will we get one more year? Will the injuries take their toll? Will he drop off the Julio Jones style cliff?
Yeah, the 3-year contract, he's not going to be playing in 3 years' time, is he?
Well, this is because we had this conversation when we saw it. I had a little look before we started recording, and it seems it would indicate it's closer to a 1 year, 16 million guaranteed sort of deal. I'm not going to profess to understand how NFL contracts work, but it seems to be, he's not going to get. I don't know if we get Mike Evans this year is the issue. Those injuries that he's had over the time. I suppose the difference with that Julio Jones comparison and that cliff he dropped off, he joined an awful Titans team. Mike Evans is joining the 49ers. So we know he is very good for a few short-range touchdowns. I think we had one season where he had a couple of 1-yard receptions for a touchdown, didn't we? And we just got those 6.1 points. He's going to have some fancy relevant weeks. I think that's a guarantee. Do you envisage, though, being able to plug Mike Evans into your lineups with confidence at this point?
He's not somebody I would draft with huge confidence at the moment because of his age, because of the injuries last season, and he's definitely somebody I could see making a lot of use in best ball next season in relevant weeks. But yeah, there are question marks there, but it's exciting for him. I think that I would absolutely not bet against him having another 1,000-yard season. I think I know we broke that last season, but I certainly would not be surprised if he bounced back again this season because he's that good a player.
And we'll also be talking about this trade when it comes to us thinking about Emeka Egbuka when we get into draft season as well. A few other wide receiver moves, though, Ed. Which one's caught your eye? I mean, firstly, your absolute favourite.
Yes, I mean, DJ Moore, we've got to talk about. I mean, Buffalo invest in that elite wide receiver. I mean, is this going to change the way Josh Allen plays now? Now he's got a reliable target. Look at last season in their receiving core. Khalil Shakir was solid. Keon Coleman was a huge disappointment. And you think Moore jumps ahead of both of them to be a clear wide receiver one. I mean, over the last couple of seasons, we spoke about it a lot. The Bills and Allen have very much thrown the ball where it needs to go. So no receiver has flourished at all, really. But does the arrival of Moore change their game plan? Is Josh Allen going to stop trying to be Superman? I mean, regardless of how we've been on the Bills over the last few years, they've not got things done ultimately, have they? So do they look at a change to the game plan? And is Moore part of that? I mean, he struggled to assert his dominance for the Bears last year. 50 receptions, 682 yards, but that was a very solid 13.64 yards per catch. Does he return to his wide receiver 6 form of 2023? What are your thoughts? I'm not all in on him, that's for sure, but it's certainly an interesting move.
It is, and yeah, you're right. I'm not 100% sure if I'm that confident. Surely we see better and he's more reliable, and hopefully this year his draft cost means we're not disappointed with him constantly as well. I don't know. I think this is where my recency bias kicks in, and I've been burnt by DJ Moore so much, and I've heard you be angry at DJ Moore so much. I'm not sure I'm able to completely trust him, but I'm really hopeful we get some vintage Moore this year.
But of course, as we've mentioned, the players that are left behind, it certainly makes Roma Dunze a much more interesting prospect left behind in Chicago. So he's another one whose value has changed significantly with that move. Moving across to Michael Pittman, who's we've mentioned already made the move to the Steelers. An annoyingly decent pickup, I think, for the Steelers. He and DK Metcalf are on paper a very solid receiving core. Now, Pittman had a great first half to last season. He had 5 wide receiver 1 weeks across the first 9 weeks, but he struggled when Danny Dimes went down. He only broke 10 fantasy points twice after week 9, and he had a horrible run during the fantasy playoffs, which I think would have upset a lot of fantasy managers. The big question mark for next year is who is going to be the quarterback in Pittsburgh. The Aaron Rodgers circus rumbles on. We await a decision on his future. If it's not him, then who? Surely they don't roll with Mason Rudolph. So when it comes to Pittman, I think we need to wait and see, really, before deciding on his fantasy prospects.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got a long time to listen to the Aaron Rodgers circus, haven't we? They've not done anything yet of the Steelers. So if it was Mason Rudolph, that sounds disgusting. The draft isn't going to be rich with options, is it? So short of a bit of a shock trade, I don't know. Yeah, we'll find out on a Pat McAfee show in about 6 weeks, probably what's happening with Rodgers. Until then, I don't want to talk about it.
Agreed. Finally, Romeo Doubs to the Patriots. A bit out of the blue for me, not one that I had on my bingo card. I think it's a big move for Doubs and the Patriots. I mean, for me, he instantly becomes fantasy relevant. And I know you, have been very wary of picking up any Green Bay receiver over the last couple of years. They've just been wildly inconsistent, but this could be a great move for Doubs. Of course, he's going to link up with Drake May. Arguably, he's going to immediately become Drake May's top target. Diggs is going, so there are a number of receptions to be shared around. Doubs has proved he's a deep threat, and Drake May quite likes to throw a deep ball, so they could hook up very nicely. Again, as a bit of a theme, we just need to wait and see what else happens. I do think the Patriots will be in the market for another receiver, whether that's through the draft or through free agency. I don't think they're done at the position. However, regardless of who they do get in, I think Doubs is someone who I will be considering but I'm just wait and see at the moment before we know exactly what happens. But I'm definitely more in on him than I have been in the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see. Does Drake May kick on after a really solid year last year? Do we get that third year dip? What does Kayshon Boutte look like next year as well? I think what it does answer the question is, when can you trust a Green Bay Packers wide receiver? And it's when they join a different team. I'm going to be far higher on Doubs this year. And it's a wide receiver out of Green Bay. At least we've got one less player to be disappointed by when it comes to Green Bay when we are making our selections. When we're looking at tight ends, then we're only going to focus on a few tight end moves. We're going to focus on one, and that is Isaiah Likely. As a Ravens fan, I'm good to see him go, but there was not a chance he was going to get paid after Mark Andrews got paid last year. Maybe it was a masterstroke by John Harbaugh. He wanted to pay Andrews, thinking he's out the door so he could sneak off Isaiah Likely wherever he went. I mean, John Harbaugh's also taken Pat Ricard, a fantastic blocking fullback. He's also taken Jordan Stout. So he's done a bit of business taking some Ravens with him. Is Isaiah Likely one we're going to be more interested by, though? And he's not. We spoke last year. Is more diverse as a receiver than most tight ends. He's not just fit into that pure tight end role. I think he could be a really, really exciting target for Jackson Dart. And let's be honest, we've seen Isaiah Likely with a couple of crucial drops. Is that going to be thematic of his career? Were there a couple of freak incidents? We've also seen him not have big games when he was projected to have it. I think my worry with Isaiah, the reason I've been so high and Likely over a period of time is because of the absolute value he represented in drafts. I've got a feeling we might get carried away this season and it will actually go a little bit higher than I'd be comfortable. I don't know. What are you thinking on Likely?
Yeah, I mean, Likely's, he's a quality tight end, isn't he? And I think it's a good pickup for the Giants. Got to remember that they've still got Theo Johnson there, who I think is an excellent tight end. And I think that will be stiff competition for Likely. But again, surely with Likely gone, that makes Andrews' role even more significant. He's had a disappointing couple of seasons. And I know Tom in particular has quite a few shares in Andrews and he's desperate for him to get back to an elite season. But yeah, Likely is somebody I'll certainly be interested in. It'll be fascinating to see how he does in New York.
Let's finish up with some quarterbacks then. What a great outcome for Malik Willis playing 2 games towards the end of last season. Let's remember, though, he's only played those 2 full games last year and had 35 pass attempts last season. For fantasy, though, it's the 19 rush attempts, 104 yards, 2 touchdowns over that 2-game window that appeals the most. We have not seen enough to be confident in this move whatsoever. I think that's fair. But Willis's value is gone up. He was a player that I picked up a lot of waivers towards the end of last season in Dynasty. I put a couple of trades in for as well because this trade felt like it was obviously going to come. That's why I did my bit of outthinking my leagues, making sure I got him early, because his value now, if you did pick him up and you've not really got space to keep him, he's a nice little trade candidate if you're happy with where you're at a QB, especially in Superflex maybe. Is he a high-end QB2 really moving forwards? Is this the fix that the Dolphins need?
I mean, quite possibly. I mean, he's a dual threat quarterback, isn't it? Which you're looking for in fantasy. It's a wait and see, isn't it? I think the Dolphins can't do much worse than they were doing under Tua. They've made that break from him, and Willis has looked impressive. But you're right; he's given his chance now. It's over to you, Malik. Prove that you've got the talent that people think that you have, and can you do it across the whole season?
Let's have a look at Tua's move to the Falcons as well. I mean, at value, I think it's around $1.5 million because he's getting paid a fortune by the Dolphins still. So, absolutely, considering the money the Falcons have wasted on quarterbacks over the last couple of years, it's a good bit of business at quarterback for them. I don't know if I'm hugely interested in Tua based on what we've seen. I don't know if I'm interested anymore in Mike Penix. Mike Penix obviously still injured. His timeline projects him to be back around about training camp, but will Tua already have staked his claim to that role by that point? If you've got Tua in Dynasty, if you've held on to him through the dire 2025, you've got to keep him at this point, though, because there is that glimmer of hope that actually this is the Tua bounce back. I don't know. I think I'm not going to be targeting him anywhere. It's just in the back of my mind, we have seen that QB9 in 2023. His only injury-free season. He's now got Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Bijan in the backfield.
True.
We said last year about for Trevor Lawrence, it was you've got everything around you. Now you do it. This is the writing on the wall. Tua's got the move. He's got solid pieces around him. He fits in a scheme that looks really logical for. I think I'm talking myself into Tua now a little bit because it all seems there for him. If he doesn't, though, do we see him get anywhere else as a starter?
Well, that's it. I think this is kind of last chance saloon as a bona fide starter, and I still don't think it's set in stone that he starts week 1 because I think, as you mentioned, Penix is there and he could well be fit. So we'll wait and see. I'm not confident in either of those, but yeah, I think Tua's had a hard couple of years. I certainly wouldn't be averse to him having a bounce back season.
We'll finish up to mention a couple of other QBs. So Geno Smith, all I've got to say on that is poor Garrett Wilson. Like, can we please have someone who can pass the ball to Garrett Wilson?
Yeah, maybe one day, Garrett.
I mean, Geno, we saw great things in Seattle. Let's be fair. Vegas were an absolute horror show last year. Maybe we shouldn't judge Geno too harshly. Time of recording as well. Kyler Murray is apparently due to visit the Vikings today. We're recording on Thursday and he's due to make that visit. Do you know what I'm really annoyed about that? If he signs with the Vikings, he's going to tempt me back in. And how many more times can he be let down by Kyler Murray?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with Murray, he is that dual threat, isn't he, that we've spoken about. And you're always going to be tempted by him. But last year, goodness me, that was a massive letdown. There was a big build-up and it just did not go well at all.
Well, that is all for our free agency fallout. Obviously, there's lots of other moves as well, so please do let us know in the comments below if there's any of your favourites we have missed out. We'll be back in a couple of weeks for our rookie preview shows as we dig into this year's draft. But that's all from me. It's all from Ed. So until next time, make sure you outthink your league.